Welcome back. This is After Wine School, and Mommy and Daddy are very disappointed in your wine storage, because that's what we're going to talk about today. We're actually going to talk about storing wine, how to do it, how not to do it.
Folks, you're really going to enjoy this episode because we take you through a lot of the do's and don'ts. So I'm excited to
Good.
share all of this with you today. We're going to start out with myths as usual. So we talk about aging wines because it is one of the things that students ask us when they come to classes. Everyone wants to know how, why, when, what, the full gamut. And so we've touched on it quite a bit actually in earlier episodes. So if this is something you're interested in, please do go back and listen to our podcast on 5 wine myths and 5 wine rules you can break. We talk a lot about aging in those episodes, but today we are going to not just talk about what happens when wines age, but also how to store wine, the practicalities.
So, folks, the one thing you should know is that 90% of all wine is meant to be drunk now, young. Only 10% is meant to be aged. So, as we're going through this, we're going to talk about all how to age things, but just remember, folks, 90%. Drink it now.
Absolutely, Keith. So let's start off dispelling some myths. Most wines are not meant to get better with age. So there are specific factors that the wine has to exhibit as intended by the winemaker for that wine to get better with time. So it's not just something that magically happens. I think a lot of people believe that, well, it's wine, it's meant to get better with age. That is an old way of thinking about wine. So not all wines age. A corollary myth that people think is that white wines don't age. White wines actually have an amazing aging potential. Riesling, one of my favorites, is one of the longest lived wines in the world. Chenin Blanc lives for a very long time. Bordeaux Blancs that are blends of Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc are incredibly age-worthy.
If you want to ever get some Reddit rage going, point out to the Redditors on the wine forum, or whatever that thing is called, and tell them that champagne doesn't age well, and they get so angry. But it usually doesn't. Well, okay. It depends on what you like about champagne or sparkling wine. Personally, I like bubbles, and I like freshness and vibrancy. Now, if you hold bubbles, especially champagne, for a long time, it actually loses its effervescence, and most of that fruit just goes away. And what you have is like this caramelly, oxidized thing. And so I say, don't age champagne at home. Don't do it, people. And yes, there's going to be some people who hate that. But the one thing you should age, something that's amazing, are dessert wines. And specifically fortified wines like Madeira and port. Like you can actually go through a nuclear holocaust and they will be fine. Them and the cockroaches, fine. That's the wine I actually always recommend. Say, look, if you're starting a cellar, get some vintage ports, throw them in there, keep them for 50 years. They'll be fresh, and you'll be decrepit and sad and angry and wondering where the world went, but your wine will be fantastic. Even not fortified dessert wines like Sauternes are phenomenal, age-worthy wines.
So why are people so intent on aging wine? What is the psychology? So I do think there's a holdover historically. Yes, that was true that you did have to age wines. But I also think, a lot of folks, maybe they don't even realize it, but it is a class signifier.
It is. It really is.
I hate saying that.
But it's true, though.
But it's true. So, we all want to aspire to live the good life. And so when you hear people with money who are always talking about aged wine, that, of course, is going to have a huge trickle-down effect on the rest of society.
Oh, yeah, of course. Because, there are the kind of folks who's the first wine they ever had, their dad went down to the cellar and brought this bottle they've been aging for a long time, one of many in his cellar. We know these people, and they oftentimes don't realize that they're the only ones who ever get that.
But another psychological factor is delayed gratification.
Oh, yes.
There is something about when you buy a special bottle and you put it away, then the buildup, it's just like packing for a vacation. A lot of times it's more enjoyable than the vacation.
Yes.
The anticipation of something can really build excitement around it. And so that can be valuable too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's what's it called? The marshmallow test.
Well, that's what they gave to children to
Yeah.
see if they could deny immediate gratification. Yes.
So basically, we're going to do the
Yes.
Barolo test for adults. That's fantastic. Here's your bottle of Barolo. Can you hold it for the 10
Yeah.
years? You should. Let's see. You know, and if you know at the end of the night, like, yeah, no, you failed. I know. You're like, nope. I know. But, you know, and there's something to be said about. So the economics of aged wines, there is something. Now, there's one if you're holding it for yourself, but there's a whole class of people who actually put wine in their cellar for investments. And there's a great economics to this. But the thing is this.
Wine has outpaced the market.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely has outpaced the market. But I was also going to point out that Bordeaux 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was actually a much better price point. Now, this day and age, there's going to be other markets. It's all about scarcity. If something is scarce, its value tends to increase. So one of the big tricks is, do you know what people are going to want to buy 20 years from now? That's the hard thing. And I've dealt with wine cellars and having to walk into someone's cellar and tell them that their entire wine selection was worthless because they decided to actually invest in wines like Petite Syrah and Zinfandel from California and let that age for 20 years. So that does happen as well. So now remember when you were 14 years old and all you really want to do is smoke cigarettes and read Camus. I mean, I don't know about you, or like, yeah, that's what I did. And that's what your wine wants. It wants to be left alone, right? It just wants to chill in the dark in a cool place, you know, just like without any light and without anything else going on, any vibrations, right? So it just needs that. And the reason it needs that is because this gives it a spot where there's no chemical reactions that are going to happen. So heat will increase chemical reactions. So 55 to 58 degrees is pretty good. Like you're not going to have any chemical reactions. But if you go up by 10 degrees, you're going to double the amount of chemical reactions you have. It's going to age really fast. What vibration in near a walkway or like in your kitchen, people, no kitchens. It doesn't allow your wines for the tartaric acids, the crystal to form. And it also doesn't allow all those tannic structures to properly settle down. So it'll just keep everything floating up. And so vibrations will mess up the aging process. Light is the worst. Light is the absolute worst. Ultraviolet actually will create those smells of asparagus, those sulfur compounds. It will actually increase your development of both sulfur and sulfide compounds very quickly. And so that's one of the reasons why you get those smells is because they're improperly stored. So, and then you need humidity because humidity does one thing and one thing only. It keeps those corks from drying out because cork is just the interior part of a tree bark. And we use it because it has a very specific moisture rate. It keeps everything compressed. So humidity is key as well. But yeah.
And speaking of corks, the enclosure actually matters
yes.
well. The natural cork, that's the gold standard. That's
Absolutely.
what wines that are intended to age will always have 100% natural cork. Screw caps.
Yes.
Screw caps, interestingly, can age wines. Australians have done scientific studies on this for a very long time. And it's the portion of air in the neck of the bottle that helps to age the wine. But also more recent studies, as I understand it, have shown that a little bit of permeability allowing outside oxygen in is actually good. So there are now screw caps or Stelvin enclosures that permit a little bit of oxidization. So just because something is a screw cap does not mean that it cannot age. If it has that little bit of permeability, that's best. Synthetic corks or agglomerated corks just don't age. Do not age a wine with that.
Well, I can say you can age with synthetic corks if you like your wines to taste like a saran wrap.
Band-Aid.
Oh, it was disgusting. I had that happen to myself with a wine that I had made. The owner of the winery had put it under synthetic corks. It was a Cabernet from Washington State. We got an 89 in Wine Spectator. It was a great deal. I was really proud of that product. But then within 2 years, it tasted disgusting because we put that damn cork in there. There's plenty of ways to actually store wines at home. And I think we should talk about that because they're listening to us talk about what to do, what's the sciences. And I did mention no kitchens. Please,
yeah.
No kitchen.
No kitchen.
Okay, take all your wine and just throw it away. Like you have ruined your wine. Okay, the things that'll mess it up, it's actually the hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold.
The fluctuation.
Yeah, and then people walking around like vibration, like lights, everything. Oh no, this is the worst possible place. The rule at home right? Is wherever you want to hide a body, that's where you put your wine. Okay? That's it. So, right, it's true. It's true. So instead of killing somebody, store your wine. And so I have now, I have now cured America and the world of murder. Like everyone now, wine collectors, not murder. Okay, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, you don't have the room. You
Yeah,
can't do it in your house.
you
Or at
don't. I'm
least you
sorry,
can't
you
do it in
can't
your
because
house.
that's where I have my wine collection. I'm sorry. So yeah, and why is this? Okay, it's dark. It's away from people, so no vibration, no light, and also you want it in a cool place because of course you don't want the body to rot. So right. Yeah. So look, this metaphor, this is working great. I really like this. I didn't think about this before. Okay. So this is it. Now, so where are these places? So if you have a house, that's a basement. A basement. Oh, far, far away from your hot water heater, no pipes. It's a great place. If you're in an apartment, that's just that lousy little closet that you have that nothing fits in. That's probably the best place. And as a rule of thumb, you don't need anything fancy. You don't need anything at all if you're going to hold things for less than 5 years. As long as you don't have heat spikes, you're going to be fine. Now, what if you want to do something more than that? What if you want to actually really have a wine cellar? Now, you know, we run a wine school. We have massive cellar, right? We have a huge, massive temperature controlled, everything vibration controlled, all of that. But at home, that doesn't make sense. You're not going to have 10,000 bottles. So maybe you're going to have 50, maybe 100, maybe 200. So what you want is one of those wine fridges, right? Wine fridges are great. What you don't want one to show off. We have one of these at the school. It's called the red fridge. And it's where we keep our wines that we're going to keep for less than like 5 years. So, basically wines for wine 101 and things like that. Now it's called the red fridge because it's red. It is ugly. And there's no glass. It doesn't look fancy at all. It just looks like it would be a dorm room, big, chunky, ugly thing. But it's the best wine preservation box. And it also doesn't look pretty, so no one's ever going to walk in and look in it. Like people look at it, they're like, ooh, but they don't want anything to do with it. That's what you want. Nothing to show off. And you don't want your wines to show off, right? Wines should be in places that they're hidden, right? Just where you put your bodies.
Okay, so after everything we've said,
Yes.
and you're giving up your murder habit, and you're
Yes.
ready to make way for wine,
Yes.
what are you going to put in that wine cellar? So, what are sort of the gold standards that you would want to hold on to? Obviously, Bordeaux.
Yes.
Right bank, sure, but really left bank, Cab Sav based blends. Bordeaux is going to be just a gold standard for aging wine. Burgundies as well. So red Burgundies and white Burgundies have incredible ageability. Also, Napa Cabs. Napa Cabs oftentimes do well with some age. And then obviously Barolos or Brunellos
Absolutely.
as
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
gold standard age-worthy wine. So those are 5 picks to get you started.
Absolutely. Yeah. The staples. Now, sure, but that's not where most of you are going to start. Let's be honest. That's not where what we do at the school, because we have to have these wines aging for like 10 years because we use them for classes. But for most people, you want something that's in that premium sector. And what do we mean by premium? Well, we talked about that last episode. But in that $20-ish price, 30 maybe at max. So that's what you want to start with. Of course, you want to spend $200 to start this. What if you don't do a good job of it? What if they go bad? Okay, absolutely. So what you need to have are red wines that are very low pH and have a very minimum amount of potassium, very little buffer, and high level of tartaric acid, of course. And you also really want to make sure that your phenolic ripeness is actually on the edge of almost green, right? So not particularly ripe for your tannins and your skins. What is that? Let me tell you. So that means Cru Beaujolais, fantastic to age, right? Your Chianti Classicos, your traditionally made Chianti Classicos, surprisingly great to age mid-term, right? So maybe 5, maybe 7 years, even 10 years. Riojas, specifically those Reservas, they're already designed, right? They're already probably got a few years on them already. They're designed for the long haul. Throw them in 5, 10 years, absolutely amazing. My favorite things to age for long term is Nebbiolo, right? You talked about Barolo But where I go, and it'll actually age even better than Barolo, will be the Alto Piedmont wines. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, these are the wines that Barolo's down here. The Alto Piedmont is way up high. And these are places like Gattinara and Gemay and Boca. Right? These are the things. They're amazing. But these wines, they don't taste great when they're young. Well, especially these Gattinaras, when they're young, they taste bitter and sour. Like you just bit into a bitter cranberry. You're like, who would drink this? You wouldn't when they're young. You hold it for 10 years and they are extraordinary wines. And you can buy them for really little money. And that's where I like to go. Now, another place I would recommend, Loire Valley, especially Cabernet Francs. Those Chenons, fantastic. And again, notice what I was talking about. I'm not talking about if they're fancy or not. I'm talking about structure, about specific kinds of acid, pH, and actually what the tannin content is in those wines. Specifically, as long as they're not too ripe, right? Because a lot of the wines we love today that we drink young, they're all super ripe and rich and ready to be drunk now, and they're delicious. Those don't age well, largely because to get those flavors, you're also getting buffer. You're getting this softness, and wines like that just die quickly unless you actually pump them up with so much SO2 that you basically have a burnt match on you, when you open that bottle.
All right, that's a great list, Keith. This is your access point into aging wines. Give it a try.
Yeah.
See if you like doing it. See the payoff. I think some of these, yeah, I remember you do love the Gatinaras.
Oh,
And there was
yeah.
a time when we had a lot of those.
Oh,
And
yes.
drinking them with some age on it, that was delightful.
Absolutely. And actually, I will actually point out some Portuguese wines are like this too, harder to find, and it's not all of them. I would used to say, hey, buy the Northern Rhones, like especially like Crozes Hermitage, but they're so expensive now that oftentimes they're out of that category of like being able to hold them. And beyond anything else, when you're holding things, I always recommend buy at least 6. That's one reason why you want to buy it reasonably inexpensively, because you have to have 6. Because they're not going to age all the way the same. And this goes back to the economics issue. Like, you are going to have to invest. You are going to lose some. Oftentimes, 1 or 2. And if you don't have a really good cellar, you might even lose, like in 10 years, you might lose half. So, yeah, count that into the equation as well.
So, folks, hopefully this information served you well. You have a better understanding of what wines can age and how to go about that process. We love doing these podcasts for you.
And if you like this, if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. It's really important. Tell other people.
Give us a good rating, 5
Yes.
stars.
Absolutely. If you like the idea of wine and you want this to be a part of your life, I recommend getting your sommelier certification, going to the National Wine School, wineschool.us. They are the only sommelier certification that is geared towards the American market and the American wine lover. So do that, but then also you can actually meet us somewhere too.
That's exactly right, Keith. We are teaching full-time at our home wine school, the Wine School of Philadelphia. Come and join us for a class. And if you would like to see us in action on YouTube doing this podcast, we have the video for you at Wine School USA on YouTube. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers, folks.